It was an honest mistake. It was foggy, the tower window was open, and she was wearing gray. A reasonable dragon cannot be expected to differentiate between a princess and a maid when both are roughly the same size and conveniently positioned for easy snatching. I only realized my error when she screamed, not the refined soprano wail of royal outrage, but a sharp, deeply unimpressed, "Oh, for heaven's sake," followed by a string of muttered grievances about laundry and gravity. By then, I was already halfway home, and frankly, it seemed inefficient to turn back. Mistakes happen. You move on. As per tradition, I deposited my catch in the hoard, expecting the usual sequence of events: weeping, dramatic lamentations, and the eventual arrival of an emissary bearing an insulting sum of gold. Instead, she looked around, frowned, and said, "This is a disaster." I assumed she meant her situation. She did not. "How do you even find anything in here?" she continued, stepping delicately over a haphazard mound of silver goblets. "Do you just rummage?" There was something deeply judgmental in the way she said, "rummage." I was too stunned to answer. She took my silence as permission and began sorting, just like that, in my hoard. Now, I may be many things: a fire-breathing nightmare, a scourge of kingdoms, an occasional connoisseur of roasted night, but I am not tidy. My treasure piles exist in a carefully curated state of chaos, where instinct guides claw to coin without the need for organization, or so I had always believed. I went hunting, partly out of hunger, partly to escape the disturbing sight of a mortal rearranging my valuables. When I returned, something impossible had occurred. My hoard gleamed. Gold coins had been stacked by size and origin, rubies and sapphires separated into neat little trays, crowns arranged in a disturbingly aesthetic pattern. Apparently, a bit of simple magic goes a long way when one has an eye for organization. A small but efficient corridor had been cleared between two towering heaps of assorted loot, creating an unnervingly accessible path. She looked up from her work and smiled, as if expecting thanks. Thanks. As if I would express gratitude for the violent restructuring of my carefully accumulated disorder. "What have you done?" I rumbled, appalled. "Tidied up," she said, dusting off her hands. "It was an absolute shambles in here." "It was my shambles," I protested. "You don't just waltz into a dragon's lair and reorganize centuries of plunder." "Well, I did," she said, entirely unrepentant. "And it's much better now. You'll see." I inhaled sharply, prepared to unleash a tirade, or possibly fire, when she continued. "Also, your ransom idea is out. They're not paying." "What?" I hissed, momentarily distracted from my righteous fury. They said, and I quote, "She's just a maid." She imitated a haughty tone with rather impressive accuracy. No reward, no negotiations, nothing. I stared at her. "So you're telling me you are entirely worthless?" "Economically speaking, yes," she said, cheerful. "But given the state of this place, I'd argue I'm an asset." I narrowed my eyes. "Go on." She gestured grandly. "You like treasure, yes? You see, all royal palace maids have to pass tests and training before they get the job. I know how to assess value, sort inventory, and keep things in order, because I had to. And what is treasure, really, if not inventory? If you want to be taken seriously as a hoarder of wealth, you need a system. A proper ledger, valuation assessments, maybe a quarterly report. Think of the efficiency. Think of the profit margins. I thought about it. I hated that I thought about it. "And what would you want in return?" I asked, wary. She grinned. "Half of whatever we bring in." "Half?" I choked. "Absolutely not." "Fine, a third," she amended. "Room, board, and the occasional day off. And I want my own corner of the hoard." I exhaled, smoke curling around my teeth. It was an absurd arrangement, unprecedented, unthinkable. "Deal," I said. And thus began the strangest, most profitable partnership of my long and illustrious career. I, feared scourge of the skies, became, against all logic and reason, the first dragon in history with a chief financial officer. She's insufferable, obviously. But I must admit, my hoard has never looked better.